Well, a recent round of investment is paying off for specialist staffing group Empresaria, which has told investors full-year profitability will come in ahead of city forecasts. Well, it overcame adverse currency headwinds created principally by a weaker euro to post a 23% advance in adjusted pre-tax earnings, while fee income rose 10%. Net debt fell by over a quarter at £7.3 million, a figure that included the term loan used to fund the October acquisition of Pharmaceutical Strategies in the US. Well, Just Krillin is the chief executive. So just what and how is the integration of the Pharmaceutical Strategies acquisition going?
Well, thank you. The strategy in the recent years has been for us to focus on acquiring and growth businesses in key strategic markets. So from that point of view, it made absolute sense for us to acquire Pharmaceutical Strategies, which is represented in the fast-growing U.S. healthcare market in the United States. It's a specialist recruitment company based in Massachusetts near Boston, and the business is performing very well. From a financial point of view, we note that in our 2015 results, we will include all the acquisition costs, which are taken on the chin by us, as opposed to treat these as exceptional. So it also demonstrates that the start of Pharmaceutical Strategies in the Empresaria group has been quite good. Currently, the business is in what they call the ramp-up period. So it's a very busy season right now for Pharmaceutical Strategies, as a lot of clients or a lot of people in the United States are changing or entering into healthcare policies. And this is where Pharmaceutical Strategies plays an important role. So trading has been starting well for the business in 2016, and we're very happy, with Pharmaceutical Strategies as our presence in the United States for the Empresaria Group.
Okay, so aside from the USA, what about your acquisition strategy elsewhere? Which regions and business areas are you considering? Because you already have a pretty decent geographical and sectoral spread.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it's very fair to say that it's very important to know that it's very apparent nowadays that parts of the world and the economies are moving into different directions. It can be best described as being an unsynchronized global recovery. This is in contrast with other upturns where we've seen a more, tendency to a more symmetrical recovery. That also is very important in terms of our further expansion and growth. So our business model is based on organic growth being completed with growth through investments and acquisitions. So if we look at the hot markets, the hot staffing markets for 2016 apparently is Europe, where UK is leading, but also Germany has very good prospects and cards to develop positively in 2016. Japan, Australia, and North America. So Japan, North America, and Europe are the three largest staffing markets in the world, and we're also represented in these staffing markets. So I think that Empresaria has a very good position in what are expected to be, the hot staffing markets for 2016. In terms of further acquisitions and investments, we do have a focus on further developing our business in Latin America, following our presence in Chile and in Mexico, who have both demonstrated good developments in 2015, and we're positive on those developments going further into 2016. Now, Latin America as a whole might look from the outside as being, a slowdown economic region, but that is all due to Brazil, which is expected to have a contraction of their GDP in 2016 and is by far the largest market in Latin America. Having said that, there are a few pockets of growth in Latin America, countries such as Peru and Colombia, that together with Mexico and Chile form the Pacific Alliance and have, through Mexico, direct access to through the NAFTA agreements with the USA, and therefore benefiting from anything that happens over there. So Latin America remains an area for the group. to look into further with, a specific focus on areas like Peru and Colombia.
Okay, in your statement, just you say the UK is doing well in parts. Which parts are doing well and which not so?
Well, the parts that have done very well is financial services. Clearly bounced back from, let's say, the downturn that we've seen and envisaged in the period of 2010 up until 2014. So it's recovery starting in that sector in 2014 and continuing into growth in 2015. We've had a fantastic year in financial services, and our brands have done very well. I can't say that there are any brands or any sectors in the UK that we're present in that are, terribly or horrible. Most of the sectors are relatively good. Some jump out. Another one which has been good for us is healthcare staffing. We operate a rather large captive center in India that services indirectly to the NHS, and we've seen some good growth coming from our healthcare staffing in the UK region.
Okay, I also know that you're devolving low-margin industrial contracts. What does that mean in plain English?
Well, it means that the group continues to follow a strategy to step away from low margin and move into more, let's say, specialist and professional staffing sectors and jobs where the margins tend to be higher. So over the first half of 2015, 86% of our net fee income was derived from specialist professional staffing, and 14% was derived from general staffing. So we continue to grow and develop our business more in the direction of generalist and into the direction of specialist and professional staffing. Okay.
Now earlier on, you talked about unsynchronized global recovery, which is a beautiful expression. However, what hasn't been very beautiful is economic predictions of a potential global slowdown in 2016. How might that affect your business?
Well, as I said in my introduction, it's all about moving parts, and it's very dangerous to make your judgments or your investment decisions on, let's say, overall macroeconomic statements. In any market in the world, there are pockets of growth. There are sectors that are growing very fast, and there are also geographical regions that are very, very positive. So it very much depends on where you are. I think that overall you can say that countries like Brazil, Russia, to a certain extent Africa, are basically areas which are not really of a high level of interest for the staffing industry. But even if you look in China, where the economy is rebalancing from a more industrial focus to a more consumer focus, you see that the dynamics in the Chinese market are quite positive. So we noted although we're very small in China, we noted in the first month of this year a significant number of new job orders and candidate registrations, demonstrating that there's a good level of activities in the local staffing industry to make business. Now, if you look at China as a whole and what's going on the stock markets over there, you might have a different view. So it's very much in the detail, and I would really advise not to, let's say, base decisions on more, let's say, macroeconomic or global statements of what could happen and what's not going to happen.
Lovely. Thank you, Joost Krulin, Chief Executive of Empresaria. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Okay, it's a pleasure.